Hi, this is Mandy Mayer, and this is EDL 854 Building Finance, my introduction video. A little bit about myself. I grew up in Western Kansas, and I graduated from Fort Hays State University with my education degree. I've been married for 12 years and have 3 wonderful children, and then I've taught kindergarten for 15 years. This is my second year as a lead teacher at Sacred Heart Catholic School. This is a new venture for me. It's a little bit more of a leadership capacity than I've had in the past. Some key takeaways from our readings include that the way that schools get their funding from state to state varies from district to district and state to state. However, there are a few basic funding principles that are relatively uniform throughout the country. Approximately 48% of the school's budget comes from state resources, including income taxes, sales tax, and other fees. Another 44% is contributed locally, primarily through the property taxes of homeowners in the area, and the last 8% of public education budget comes from federal sources with an emphasis on grants for specific programs and services for students that need them. The careful distribution of funding is according to the traditional American desire to keep the control of the schools at the local level rather than at the national one. Each state has its own formula for how the funding for schools is collected and allotted, but the states have responsibility to allocate these funds according to adequacy and equity. In other words, states have the responsibility to make sure that schools have sufficient funding to operate, and schools have the responsibility to ensure that every student gets a quality education. A large majority of the federal funding is set aside for public education is distributed directly to local schools. Some of the programs currently funded by the federal government include Title I, which is a program specifically geared to students from low-income families and areas. English language acquisition, which offers monies to schools with students that do not speak English as their first language to help them learn English and improve proficiency on statewide exams. The Reading First program is to help schools implement robust reading programs that utilize scientific-based research to support their success. Individuals with Disabilities of Education Act is to help students with disabilities get a quality education by providing them with the resources they need. And then the Improving Teacher Quality Grants is used by schools to improve teacher training and development programs with local schools and districts. Principals initially worked as school managers, but with time their duties have multiplied. Now, among the major roles are leading school reform and defining education objectives and goals, including developing school budgets, which is a record of projected revenue and expenditure. A budget is vital because it helps to ensure that the schools achieve their goals. Another responsibility is fundraising. This is a method that community use to support the growth of their school. It is the duty of the principal to ensure that the school uses the funds for the right purpose. Keeping accounts. The principal is to account for the school's revenue and how it is spent and to report it in the right places. And then also the principal is in charge of teacher salaries, which ensuring that the teacher salaries are in line with the levels set by the Department of Education and that staff comply with the employment terms of their contract. The school principal's roles have changed significantly in the past few decades. Many school leaders struggle with grasping the scope of their responsibilities and liabilities when it comes to accounting and finance. Common duties include understanding the financial limitations and the flexibility of the school, regularly approving and revising school budgets, reviewing and analyzing income and expenditures on a regular basis, understanding that the school income must be handled in accordance with relevant requirements, regulations, and rules, establishing procedures for handling income and expenditure, procurement and quotation, as well as rules on adherence, acceptance of advantages, and other financial management criteria and procedures, organizing controls of the budget, hiring an accountant or an auditor to help make sure that they're tracking it correctly, and reporting the use of school funds to relevant parties. 3 of the most common reports in school accounting include the income statement report that shows the revenue and spending. Each type of expense should be categorized according to the type of expenditure. Another type is the balance sheet, which assesses the financial health of your school at any given time, and it tells what your school owns, which are the assets, and what your school owes as the liabilities, and what you have left over, which is your net value. The cash flow statement is another report that shows the cash coming in and out of the school based on a number of categories. Principals typically are treated like middle managers with little control of how it's spent in their building. Instead, decisions are often made by legislators and district-level bureaucrats who are far removed from the classroom. This could be problematic because research suggests that limiting school-level control over the budget decisions often creates inefficiencies. At the state level, finance formulas determine how dollars are allocated to districts, and virtually all of which contain allotments that are restricted for specific purposes. This approach is supposed to ensure that the funds are put to good use, but often leaves the districts hands tied due to the requirements. Most spending decisions are made by the central offices and not necessarily by the building principal. Most districts allocate staffing positions and other resources based on a one-size-fits-all model. I've seen my principal, they had a great job. I know that they keep the accounts, they help establish the budget and do the reports. Obviously, they're involved in teacher salaries and contracts and making sure that the teachers comply with their contract, and also establishing procedures and handling income and expenditure and procurement, making sure that teachers understand how they are able to use funds that are given to them. Things that I haven't seen my principal do directly would be like the meetings that they have with the district or the accountant, maybe actually formulating the budget, those kind of things. I know that they report to the given councils and things, but I'm not exactly for sure how that is done. Some concerns that I have when it comes to being in charge of my school's budget someday as a future leader are understanding the budget, all the accounting terms, the gross profit margin, net profit, assets, liabilities, all of those things. All of that is a little overwhelming. Another big concern I have is understanding all the federal funding and requirements that go along with it. I know that with those requirements comes lots of forms and things you have to fill out. And then ultimately ensuring the best allocation of the funds received to ensure what is best for the students at all times. I know that there's a lot to learn, and I will be sure to surround myself with good mentors to help guide me through this learning process. Here are my references. Thank you and have a great day.